Gordon mocking me? I think he's mocking me.
He might be. I think he might be. Nice. I think Gordon may have been playing the saxophone like a flute there or something. I'm not sure.
Wrong. It was wrong, whatever.
No, listen, don't judge me. I listen to Eric and it moves me in a certain way. You can't control these things.
It's true, and you cannot. I understand that you've been moved by the music, and so we want to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today on our live dispatch from home. I am Patricia Butler. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ArtistWorks, and I am joined today by two outstanding musicians, both saxophone players, but they play many different instruments. We're going to learn about that today. But at the bottom of your screen, you will see Eric Marienthal, and he is our jazz saxophone teacher at ArtistWorks, and he's the holder of multiple Grammys and, I don't know, a lot of distinctions. We're going to find out what all of those things are. And in your upper right-hand corner is Mr. Gordon Goodwin, and he is the founder of the Gordon Goodwin Big Fat Band. Yay! Also the winner and holder of many Grammys and Emmys, and oh my gosh, I mean, we are amongst royalty here, and I really appreciate you guys spending time with us today and sharing some music and some insights and what's going on in your life. That's what we want to know.
Eric, before we start, how does this work? Where does this go?
What is that? What have you got there?
Just put it like this?
It doesn't really matter.
Like that?
It's a myth that it's got to be on.
Does he have that right?
That's it? All right.
For you, Gordon, that's perfect.
I think that looks good. It looks a little bit like a duck.
Wait a minute. I think I detect sarcasm.
No. Don't go there already, man. Don't go there.
I know.
We're in trouble already.
It's just like 30 seconds.
2 minutes, yeah.
It doesn't take long. It does not
Trust
take
me,
long.
it does not take long.
Well, do you know how long Eric and I have known each other?
And that was actually one of my first questions, Gordon. So I want to know about the first time you met each other, the very first moment you met. But how long has it been? And tell me about the first encounter.
Well, the interaction that we share has a lot to do with the fact that it goes back a number of decades.
Okay.
Right.
Yep. I'm not even sure how much you remember about this, but okay, here we go. When I was a senior in high school, I guess 1976, I auditioned for the Southern California All-Star Jazz Band, and it was hosted by Cal State Northridge. And Gordon was, and one of their student at the time, Gordon was obviously a student. He was in charge of the saxophone auditions, and so I auditioned, and Gordon was one of the adjudicators. And so I actually met him for the first time then in 1976.
But how did that happen, though? Sorry, I got to get all these things right here. It's tough for me. I'm telling you, it's a lot of buttons to push.
That's good.
It's like on a saxophone.
Yeah.
But so you auditioned, Eric, and then what? Afterward, Gordon came up and said, "Hey, good job." Or how did you actually meet? What was your eyes met at some point?
He came up. There were a lot of students at the audition, as I remember, and Eric kind of was hanging around after everyone left, and so he came up to me, and he said, "I really, really want this gig." And he goes, "Oops, what is this?" And he dropped like a $20 bill on the ground, and I thought. And in 1976, $20 went up.
So you can be bought. That's what
he was in, man. The kid was in.
Yeah, you can be bought. I love that. I like that about you.
I don't really remember a lot of that audition. I mean, I vaguely do. But you made the band.
Playing was very memorable, of course. Obviously,
you made the band, though, right?
I did make the band. Yeah, it was me and Ted Nash.
Yeah. Oh, you Ted Nash.
Ted played lead though, so he liked Ted Nash's playing better than mine, but I can understand that.
And so, Eric, would you say that your placement in that band was kind of a seminal event in your life, so that your career just blossomed, exploded from that?
Not that you want to take credit or anything, Gordon. You don't.
Wouldn't you say that was kind of like a significant? No.
Yes, absolutely, of course. You were why I am what I am today.
Right.
Absolutely. I thank you so much.
Right, and that's how he got all the accolades at Berkeley and all that. Yeah, it's all Gordon. All Gordon all the time.
Just ask him; he'll tell you.
No doubt. All right, we got folks from all over the place here, so I want to make sure that Eric, you say hello to my father, who is a fellow saxophone player.
Oh,
Dad
hello,
is joining us.
Hello.
Yeah, he's joining us from Pennsylvania. And Gordon, I know we've not talked before about my father, but he had a long musical career from when I was, probably not even born, playing saxophone all over Pennsylvania. And I think, Eric, you may have spoken with him at one point. I know you're familiar with him because I've certainly talked about him a lot, and he's joining us today. And then we have some folks from South Africa. And Roger Pace from Germantown, Tennessee.
Roger.
I used to live there. Do you know him, Eric?
Yeah, he's one of my original ArtistWorks students. He's like kind of a co-teacher. Yo, Roger, what's going on? Roger is a big helper just in terms of not only is he a great player and a great teacher himself, but on the Shoutbox, if somebody has a question and I don't get to it, which might happen occasionally, Roger might attest to that. Roger chimes in, and he's a wealth of knowledge. And yo, Roger, yo, man.
Yeah, nice to have you with us, Roger. So for those of you who don't know much about ArtistWorks, just let you know that we are an online music instruction company, and we work with 35 world-renowned musicians, including Eric Marienthal. And they've come into our studios. We've dragged them to Napa, California. And they recorded pretty much everything they know, and that entitles us to really be allowed to teach just about anything anybody wants to learn to play. And Eric teaches jazz saxophone. And how long have you been with us now, Eric? How many years?
I think 5. Maybe?
I was just going to say that too. I should have known that, but I'm just so proud to have you on the roster. It's a feather in our cap, to be honest with you. And so the folks that are out there that are saxophone players, and I know Tyson Santos is one of them, you can come learn from all those lessons, but you also have the ability to send in a video to Eric, and he's going to respond with a video, and we keep those two videos paired together. That's called a video exchange, and everybody gets to learn from that video exchange, whether or not you send one in. So that's what's unique about ArtistWorks, and Eric does it very, very well.
Well, thank you. I was just doing a whole bunch right before we went on air.
Oh, is that right? Doing a lot of responses. Yeah. Well, we got a couple folks here to say hello. Marianne is from Connecticut. We've got Andrew from Sacramento, and Joel is here from Melbourne, Australia. Isn't that nice?
Cool.
And here's Tyson. I knew he'd be on here. I threatened him, told him he had to be here. And then we have a couple other people here. Just let's put them up because they wrote into us from Brazil and also from Chile. And then it looks like we have another person from Brazil. They've been really very active. Yeah. Isn't that cool? That's really awesome.
Cool.
It's really great.
So yeah, we've got people from all over the place. So let's keep talking here. Let's see. So you told me about the first time you guys met. When was the first gig together? What was the first gig?
That's a good question. Probably maybe at Disneyland.
Very first gig together. Not the Big Fat Band, but
no, not the Fat Band. But well before that, we both were working at Disneyland in different groups that they had there. And
were you Mickey Mouse or no? Sorry.
No, actually, they hired us for our musical acumen, and we Eric played in the Disneyland band, and I played. I was never a regular member of the band. I was a pretty regular sub, And then we would play in a saxophone quartet. That would, walk up and down Main Street and do that. And then I played in some Dixieland bands, played some ragtime piano. I played in rock and roll bands in Tomorrowland. It was a great experience, actually, for a young musician. Make a little money, learn how to be a professional. Where you're doing 5 shows a day and you're just banging it out, whether you felt like it or not. You had a job to do it at a high level, and that's actually something Eric's always been really good at, and I think maybe he emphasizes in his teaching, is that when you play, it's kind of a muscle, and you have a commitment to it, which shouldn't vary whether you're in your bedroom practicing or whether you're on stage at the Hollywood Bowl. It should be the same level of commitment. And that's one thing about Eric that he shows when he plays. You can hear the air, you can hear the way that he is not, the way this sentence is coming out right now is something he doesn't do musically, where you're stumbling about what exactly am I going to say and how do I say it? And I think that's Eric can speak to this. But I think it's a kind of a mindset that he adopted pretty early. And so, but for me, Disneyland was that job there. And I was working there for maybe 8 years, something like that. And then I segued from playing to writing music and arranging, for their shows and attractions. So nonetheless, I think probably that's where we first spent real significant time together. Does that sound right, Eric?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, from the beginning, I'm trying to think if there was any other band at Disneyland besides the Disney band that we would have played together in, but I don't think so. Yeah, I was like Gordon said. I was in the band, and Gordon, the cool guys were the guys who came in and subbed. And the thing about being a sub too was that sometimes you'd play the low woodwind chairs, sometimes you play the higher woodwind chairs, and so. You never knew, depending on who needed the sub that day. Well, but
so, to be honest, though, if you remember, I didn't really have to learn the music. They would just throw me out there, and I would make up my part as we would.
Oh my Lord!
That's
improvisation. Really? Are you telling the truth?
It's the truth, and I had enough of an ear that I could kind of fit in and do that, and I can't believe I got away with it.
Not many people could pull that
learn that music, memorize it. But nowadays, it's a whole different thing for the Disneyland band because those guys have specific and intricate choreography that they have to do. We just lackadaisically marching down Main Street, and then we'd go ride the carousel and play on the carousel. Then we'd go on the Mark Twain and play a set around the Mark Twain. It was pretty easy compared to the athleticism that's demanded of those guys today.
Did the repertoire change for the Disney band? I mean, or was it sort of the same thing all the time?
Well, that was a pretty wide. It depended because we would do everything from a marching band, frankly, a 16-piece marching band, to a big band, which we would do a big band set every day also. And then we break down sometimes into small groups. And we would, our group was the saxophone quartet, and we go off and do little things. And then when a show, Frankie Valli or whoever would come in to the park, we suddenly became, the pit orchestra. So it was actually, it's pretty funny. I mean, I joke about the fact that I played, in the Disneyland band, and it took me years of therapy to get over the fact that, I was there, but totally not true. It was really a very, very good band. Some very high level musicians like Gordon, Wayne Bergeron would come in and play, Sal Lozano. A lot of the guys, in the Big Fat Band were either in the band or subs. And a good number of the players, not only in the Disneyland band, but also in the park in general, are today, some of the top studio players here in LA. So
it's a little bit, isn't it a little bit of a proving ground for a lot of musicians? I mean, I'm kind of remembering Britney Spears.
Well,
Disney, but maybe Gordon, you know more about that.
I do know a little bit about that because, as it turns out, when I transitioned from being a musician, like just an instrumentalist, to a composer and arranger for the Disney company, the first gig I had was writing the music for a Mouseketeer show. Now, this Mouseketeer show was a combination of the original Mouseketeers, like Cubby and not Annette, she wasn't there, but Tommy and Lonnie and Sharon and some of those kids from the 50s. They came back as adults, and then they matched them with some of the new Mouseketeers, which was right before Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, I think, were Mouseketeers. So nonetheless, that was the same concept. So that was my first gig, writing music for that particular show. And
was that a big break for you, Gordon? Would you say that was your first big break, or no?
I saw that question in the comments about my first big break.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I'm waiting for it. Honestly.
Oh my God.
I feel like my career has been just a kind of an incline, a steady incline, and there are significant signposts along the way, but it's kind of an organic flowing thing for all of us.
Excuse me, I'm going to stop you 1 second here. Gordon, how many Grammys have you been nominated for, and how many have you won? Go ahead, just let us know that, please.
Is there a question rhetorical?
No, it's literal.
Okay. I've got 21 nominations, and I've won 4 times, which means I've lost 17 times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay, so you're still waiting for your big break. Go on.
Well, I don't mean to take it for granted by any means, because it's a thrill. But okay, so the first Grammy that I won, so you get up there and you make your little speech and they hand you a Grammy. Then you walk off stage and they take it away because that's just a prop. And you go around the corner and they hand you another Grammy, and there's a guy with a camera and he does a quick little interview with you. And he goes, "What's it feel like?" And I said, it's awesome. But you know, the truth is, there are 4 guys sitting out there that just lost.
Yeah.
And their music isn't any worse than it was a minute ago. And mine's not any better because of this. But if this Grammy helps me to open up another door, get a little more, publicity or something to lead to allow me to keep doing what I do, that's its real value. And this guy looked at me like, seriously? That's what you're giving me?
I don't know not what he wanted to hear.
Response or not, but
you ungrateful person. No,
I know it definitely seemed that way,
but I think though, what I hear what you're saying, that moment, that statue wasn't the be all and end all, but it's the implications of earning that statue. It wasn't a gift. People didn't just give it to you because they thought you were handsome. You earned it, and your peers voted for you. So kudos to you. And also,
look on his face when you said that.
No, I didn't say a word.
Look on his
face. I didn't say a word.
You didn't.
Oh my gosh.
No, they did not give it to him because he was handsome. No.
No, that's what you're laughing about. I don't know. This is like getting cats to march in a parade here.
We tried to warn you.
Well, yeah, that didn't work.
You didn't listen. You didn't listen.
I didn't. So much for the sound check and all that. All right, we had some questions. Is it all right if I ask you guys some questions?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. These are real questions. So Lisa says, my daughter plays saxophone and is currently finishing her 2nd year at University of North Texas in a jazz studies major. Due to current events, all ensembles and lab band and classes and performances have been canceled. She and her fellow students are concerned that the situation is going to continue, and she's considering taking some time off from school until on-campus classes resume. Do you have any suggestions for alternate classes? I did not plant this. I did not. I don't know who Lisa is, but thank you for that question, and we'll let Eric answer that.
Yeah, well, gosh, one thought I
wonder if there's
kind of comes to mind maybe is like some sort of online instruction, subscription based, where you can subscribe and have hundreds of lessons and tracks and songs and exercises and all kinds of things to play, and you could film yourself and submit a video, and the teacher could respond to the video in kind and do an exchange that way. If only something existed that would be able to fit that. Artist Works. Oh, of course. How could I not think of that?
Who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thunk it? Yeah, this is obviously a platform. It's for better or worse, a lot of myself included, a lot of the teachers at Artist Works are seeing an uptick, and it's really great that an uptick in students. It's great that we are able to have this available to people. I actually did a a Zoom master class for the big band at Caltech, the tech school that feeds a lot of the engineers and scientists to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. And I played live with them a few years ago, and Wayne Bergeron, the lead trumpet player in Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band, his wife Barb Catlin, is the leader of the school, so she asked me to do it, and
Nice.
it was really great. Everybody was at home, obviously, but it's a way to it's a way to continue to connect and play, and it's a bummer. I mean, for us people who like to play, not only like to play live, but it's part of our our income, our business. We're not
Yeah.
getting to do that, so thank goodness for me, I've got things going on, but anyway, these kinds of outlets are the next best thing, because we're able to connect with each other, and maybe not play live for the time being, but at least be able to connect musically. And as far as education is concerned, this is a lot of great benefits of this, actually.
Well, what also is, and this is not meant to be a big commercial for Artist Works, but this is a legitimate question, and I think a lot of students find themselves a little bit abandoned at the moment. And what is pretty cool about what you have recorded specifically is that it starts at the very beginning and takes people all the way through to like getting tips on recording and performing and all of that. And so you really didn't leave any gaps in the video lessons, but Lisa, your daughter, can submit videos, like we said, to Eric and get specific guidance back from Eric. So whatever she was working on at school, she can continue to do with us. We're accredited in grades 9 through 12, but not for college. But that doesn't mean that she can't learn there. So that's a good question.
Gordon, I mean, shout out to Gordon, and he's got some great play along books in conjunction with the Fat Band. Where
that's a great idea.
And if I could speak to the question here for a minute, because you just said the word abandon.
Yes.
And that's an interesting word, because it's not the first time that I've heard it from students, and based on the circumstances we find ourselves into. So I would say to anybody that's trying to decide what to do with their time right now, okay, I did a similar thing that Eric did. It was a Zoom session with a whole big band back on the East Coast. And so we were talking just very much like this, and the band director said, so what would you like to ask Gordon? And all 18 kids are like this.
I know, no questions.
And so the band director helpfully goes, well, Gordon, so tell me, what kind of things do you work on? Or Brad did, and I said, let me just step back from that question, and let me just point out something to everybody. Right now, we've been shaken out of our usual routines. And that's disruptive, but certainly there's some good things to come from it. And one of those things is you have the gift of time, and you can use that time, you can waste it, or you can use it. And I said, now I want to tell you guys something. I go, there are people, once you get out of school, that use this time and that went for it and didn't sit there in a Zoom session when the band director said, do you have any questions? They didn't sit there like this.
Yeah.
Those are the people you are going to be up against in the real world. When I was at Disneyland, Eric, we would be out there marching around in the hot sun, and we'd come into the band room, and we would all fall onto the couch and just get something to drink, and some guys would play cards, and some would watch TV, and Eric would take his saxophone and go into the stairwell and practice.
Yeah.
Every break, he's out there practicing. And so the point is, I think, for young people who have a tendency, and I was the same way, I just kind of took things for granted. I figured I'm entitled to have what I have in my life, and it's just going to work out for me because mom and dad paid for my lessons and bought my saxophone, and that's my life, and that's what I get. But the truth is, it doesn't have to be that way, and that you have a responsibility to find out who you are and go get it. So if there's a pandemic and you can't go to class, then you got to get the information. If you decide you really want it, there are a lot of ways to get the information you need. Artist Works is one of them. There's a whole bunch of professional musicians that had all their gigs canceled
That's right.
that are sitting around. Drop them an email, go on their website, say, hey, can I take a lesson with you, Wayne Bergeron or Eric Marienthal or whatever? You got to be an advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
Because mom and dad won't do it forever. Your teachers won't do it forever. And indeed, in college, that's the time when you have to start to decide if you want it or not.
Yeah, because it can get very competitive. It can get extremely competitive. And
Yeah.
I've known so many musicians that went into college with, a fair amount of talent. And a lot of other people, myself included, I was willing to work harder because I didn't have that natural, inherent talent. I believe talent can be taught, but boy, you're so right. You do need to be in the stairwell practicing, because the other guy is going to stop doing that because he's always been better than everybody else till he got to age 18, and the whole world changes. So I think, what I love about what you said though is that I think these live streaming events are really helpful because it's exposing artists to people that might otherwise not have known about them. But boy, it's an opportunity to learn from them too.
It really is. It's really a unique thing, unheard of in any other time, other than maybe say the last 5 to 8 years, really.
Yeah.
That the technology has allowed us to kind of be in contact people from Brazil and South Africa on this thread. That's pretty remarkable. Well, Eric's all the way down in Newport Beach.
Where are you, Gordon? Where are you?
I live in Westlake Village, which is...
Oh, yeah, so you're not far from there.
It's like, a little bit north of Los Angeles. And
well, I would love to hear
usually it's about
some...
a 3-hour drive. Nowadays it's about 45 minutes.
Right, from Eric and I, right.
Yeah, no kidding, no traffic. Oh, boy. Who wants to play something? Eric, Gordon? Little music? Who? Okay, he was quick. He was fast, Gordon. He was fast.
I wish we could play together, but unfortunately, I don't think that would be disastrous, I think.
Okay, here's what we can do. Here's what we can do. So, Eric,
this is not going to
play something.
Not going to go well.
I'll play something and then you respond. Okay? So, because you're right, sound only goes on one way at a time on the internet. So I'll play.
I don't know if this is going to work.
No, it might not. It might completely suck.
It might. Right, it might suck. This might suck, Gordon.
But that's what's important about
all right,
a musician and being willing to suck once in a while.
I'm good.
I'm
leaving it to you two. All right, take it away.
Okay.
Nice. Okay, that actually wasn't too bad. I'm going to give it a thumbs up because it was so innovative and musically creative. I think I think I'm giving that a thumbs up.
Well,
that was fun. That was fun. All right, let's take some questions. This is a good question from Andrew Yoon. I don't know if we know him or not, but Andrew has asked us a question, and I'm thankful for that. Thank you, Andrew. What makes the difference between a great lead alto player and a good lead alto player? I think that's a great question. Eric, do you want to take that first?
Yeah, a lot of, I play lead alto in Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band, I'm proud to say. And I've learned a lot. The interesting thing about that section, more so than any other, for sure more than any other section I've ever played in, is that every single guy in that section is not only an alto player, but lead alto players in a lot of different situations, like every single one. And so on one level, it's intimidating because I know that any of the other four guys could do a great job in my chair. And so by being the lead alto player of a bunch of lead alto players, makes me have to be on my game a bit more and makes me think about what it is that I'm doing a bit more. The thing about Gordon's band that is both just amazing and what makes it so much fun is the precision of the group. You can really put just about, Gordon always gets pissed off when we say this, but Gordon's music is hard. Not every chart is super duper hard, but a lot of the music is exceptionally hard. And so it's not easy to play, with such precision, but the band does. And because of everybody around you, it makes you want to, and forces you to, frankly, to step up. And as the leader of your section, it's up to you not only to play each part well, but to play it completely consistently like you did the last time and the time before that and the time before that and all the times you're going to play it in the future. In terms of inflection and dynamic, just because the music says mezzo forte doesn't mean you're always going to play the exact same dynamic. It's all, it's relative to a large degree, actually. And so, so it's up to the lead player to decide, what level of mezzo forte does that mean? What level of pianissimo does that mean? What level of, how intense, how short should a staccato be? How intense should an accent be? And then, as lead alto player, you gotta, it's not just a matter of, my way or the highway. It's got to be what is appropriate for the section. And I've got to play with the section as much as, the lead alto player should play with the section as much as vice versa. And then also, the question is about being a lead alto player. When it's, when the music is written such that the lead trumpet is playing the same thing I am, then he's the section leader and I'm the second alto player, so to speak. It's really the, if everybody was playing unison in the, well, not just unison, but playing a 2D line or playing, whether it's, unison or not, it's up to the lead trumpet player to, set everything, the phrasing, the dynamic, everything, the cutoffs and all that. And so it's my job suddenly to, to be the follower and listen to that. Not just a follower, but just to, to really listen. And so it's really fun. It's fun to be the lead alto player because you don't have to be stuck playing those crazy inner fourth tenor parts, for example. Usually I get to play, a melody, and it's, in that sense, it's easier to play lead alto because generally, melodies are, maybe they flow more, maybe sonically your ear picks up on it more easily. But yeah, I've been the lead alto player in Gordon's band since just after the first record, back in 2005, 2000. What was it, Gordon?
Yeah, 2000.
2000, right?
Record came out in '99, and we started doing gigs. It took a year before we even got a first gig. We didn't want to do gigs.
The first gig was that gig at Cal State Northridge, right?
Yeah, and you played lead alto on that gig. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
the thing about Eric though is it's not clearly there are leadership issues and issues about managing people, because as Eric said, everybody in the section is a lead alto player in other guys' bands or a soloist or a writer, or so they have their own musical identity. So the way it is in our band, everybody's that way. So you have to be able to handle the personalities, get them to do what is best for the band, not maybe what's best for them. So Eric's able to command their respect and do that. Additionally, stylistically, you have to be able to know how to play saxophone like Johnny Hodges and Dave Sanborn and Phil Woods and Cannonball, and maybe even Marcel Millet. But you have to be able to play kind of classically sometimes. It's a really wide stylistic range. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of an important thing, that for not just for the lead players, but for everybody in the band. But I do feel compelled to respond to Eric's comment of difficulty when it comes to music. And because I don't want to give the impression that it hurts my feelings that people think the charts are hard, because they would be a lot of it is material written to the level of the musicians that are in the band, and then they get published, and high school kids see this stuff and go, "Wow, how am I supposed to play this?" Yeah. And it's like, well, I didn't really write it for you. I wrote it for Eric. I wrote it for Wayne. And the truth is, they do play it. They play it the first time around. They sight read it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Having said that, I got into a mode of thinking about 5-6 years ago, which is after spending some time with James Morrison down in Australia, who's a fantastic, amazing, probably one of the best musicians I've ever met. And if you don't know him, you should Google and see what he's about. But he has a thing about calling something hard, anything, music, life. If you predetermine the outcome, you have a tendency to fulfill that outcome. Mm-hmm. So I try to tell students, like, let's not call it hard. We're going to call it challenging, because challenging is inherently you can meet a challenge. The music is hard is a little bit of an excuse for not confronting it full on. And I used to see that with the guys when early on we do gigs, and people go, "Oh my God, you guys sound great." And they'll go, "Yeah, it's really hard." And I thought, well, why are you saying that? Because first of all, it's a little bit of a denial of the compliment you were just given, but it's also, feels a little bit egotistical to me, because reading between the lines, they know they nailed it. Yeah, it was really hard, but I nailed it. Yeah. So all those different factors kind of factored into our culture's embracement of that kind of terminology. So Eric's right. I have kind of made it a point. And even reflexively, I'll even say it. Yeah, that was hard. I'll even say it sometimes, but I try not to. I try to look at it as this is this and this is that, and go into it with an open mind and open heart and do your best.
Yeah, because when you say hard, it's kind of like that's the end game. All right, well, because you might as well finish the sentence. It's too hard for me. But a challenge is something that maybe you lay the gauntlet down and continue to go forward. So I like the nuance there in the meaning.
Yeah, whatever. It's hard.
Yeah. So a couple more questions here, but one that's really from me. I'd like to know what the two of you are up to. What's next? I know everything's on hold. I understand that, but I know some people are doing some recording at home. They've been asked to add to some projects that are in the works. And so, Eric, I guess I'll go to you first, and then I want to hear from Gordon too. What's going on? What's coming up that we can expect from you? Anything?
Well, as a matter of fact, yeah, I've got a new CD that, because we actually finished a little bit earlier than we thought, because we're all home in our studios. But I just finished a new record with Randy Brecker, legendary trumpet player. We've actually been talking about it for the past couple of years, and so Shawnee Records in New York signed us, and so we just finished it. George Whitty produced it. Great keyboard player, producer. Yeah,
he teaches at Artist Works. That's so cool.
Does. Yeah, of course. Yeah. George is a genius, really, and so much fun to work with. We've just been, it's been hard to get work done between all the laughing. So
I'll bet. When should we expect this to?
The record comes out in June. We just turned in the master yesterday, as a matter of fact. So we turned it into mastering, I should say. So just saw the artwork, first draft of the artwork today, and so we were right in the middle of it. And I got a funny email, an amazing email yesterday, actually, from the head of music publishing at Fox, uh, who owns The Simpsons, and they want to use a recording of mine. Not a recording. I did a live concert in Prague, in the Czech Republic, um, and about 3 years ago, and we did one bigger concert, and then one. It was with Bobby Shu, the great trumpet player, and we did it as a quartet. Where the first gig was, we were actually in Prague to play with the orchestra, but on a side whim, we did this. Bobby put this gig together at this club, and they filmed it, but it wasn't officially filmed. And uh, anyway, so it was on YouTube, and I get this email saying, "Hey, we want to use a portion of your solo on one of the songs, just the audio part, obviously, uh, for the scene, an upcoming scene in an episode this summer, where Lisa Simpson, walks into a mall and starts playing, and we're going to use your like 30 seconds of your solo
Oh, wow.
and animate her to that."
That's
Um,
great.
and so now, yeah, we're just kind of dealing with
Doesn't she play the Bari sax?
well, good question. Exactly. I don't know. I'm not going to bring that point up because I don't want to blow
No,
the deal
don't.
here.
Get the gig. Get the gig.
But I definitely played it on Alto. Yeah, exactly. It's a non-gig gig that already happened. Gig that keeps on paying.
I'll put that out. That'll be fine.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And now, so Gordon, are you able to get anything going here after this crazy
Well,
virus and the
like
reopening?
Derek had before, right when the shutdown happened, we just finished a master. Well, so the Fat Band had a record that came out called the Gordian Knot. Came out.
Let me see that.
Actually, so we had the vinyl version, which we did,
Well,
and it's a double record because we have. Here, let's see, where's Eric? Where is he? Let's see if I can-
oh, yeah, to your
I'm
right.
not the one in the
there.
dress with my arms up. No, that's me. Yeah, it's me
Yeah.
right in the middle.
I hope you're not the one in the dress, Eric.
Anyway, so
Not that there's anything wrong with that, right? Isn't that what we're supposed to say?
we also did a Dolby Atmos mix of it, and Dolby Atmos is kind of the new surround sound. Typically, you'd hear it in a movie theater for sound effects, but the new implementation of that is going to be for music, and the big band sounds just so amazing. And here's the thing about it: the algorithm for Dolby Atmos is intuitive. So if your home theater has 7 speakers, it'll adapt to that. If it's got 2 or 3, it'll adapt to that. It'll even adapt to an iPhone on a headphone. So
Wow.
it's really a new cutting edge thing. We finished the mix and then pretty much closed everything down. So we're talking on the phone next week to just decide, how do we get that record released? Probably on Blu-ray, and from there. But Eric and the rest of the guys and I are recording a couple of songs, new Fat Band songs, and pretty much everybody records their own parts in their own home studios, and then send them to me, and then I put them all together and sew them up, and then we'll have a couple of new tracks hopefully in a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's great.
It's really hard too.
It's hard. Is it hard?
So hard.
Fortunately, I have all kinds of tools. Like I can tune him up. I can tighten it up. So it's
All right, let's take a couple more questions.
Hey, by the way, before we do that,
What? Yes, please.
I came across. I don't know if you guys nobody commented on this, by the way.
Well, we
But
can't see it.
I found this picture.
Oh my
Look at that.
gosh.
Gordon, pretty cool haircut.
yeah. Look at that hair. I got to go back to that hair.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
That's my
Hair?
Floby hair.
Gordon has hair.
Gordon has more hair. Well, so
He has more hair.
don't we all? Guys. It's Gordon
wow.
and I and Wayne Bergeron at IAGE, or where was that, Gordon?
That was I think it was at IAJE,
Yeah.
International Association for Jazz Education, a now
That's
defunct
nice.
organization, but
That's nice. And you have friends underneath there. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Not just fellow musicians. That's a good one. So, couple questions here. Here's 2 questions. You guys decide who's going to take them. The first one is, which saxophone inspired you? And the next one is, how many hours a day do you study? How many hours, I guess, do you practice? So, somebody's assuming that you practice for hours a day.
Well, what's interesting is that, now, I realized after being pretty much in the studio for the past, 40 days or so, that my wife and I have been joking about the fact that this is probably the longest I've been off the road
Yeah.
in one consecutive stretch for about the last 30 years.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's really funny because I always say, like playing is not practicing. When you can't say, well, I'm doing a lot of gigs, so therefore I don't really have to practice because I've got the horn in my mouth and I'm playing a lot. And so, practicing is practicing. But I realize that, I perform so much that not having performed for the past 40 or so days, you know,
Yeah.
it's, well, if I didn't do some extra work, it would definitely be a problem with my playing, So, I'm trying to, do more shedding, now that I'm sort of, that we're all sort of cooped up for a while.
What are you doing? Are you doing like long tone scales, arpeggios? What are you practicing the
Well,
most?
I'm getting back into my old, like Marcel Mule exercises, the old,
Oh yeah. It's exhausting. I know. You play that so well though.
Yeah, and it's fun. I always say to my students, it's more how we practice is more important than what we practice. We want to practice in the right kind of way, but in terms of we have to practice things like scales because the scales are the language of music. We have to do things like long tones, for the maintenance of our strength and endurance and whatnot.
Sure.
But beyond the basics like that, it's really about what's going to maintain your interest, what's going to keep you engaged. And they're just, as long as you're playing, if you're playing metronomic music, playing in time with a metronome and doing the right kinds of things, you can do pretty much anything just to build your technique.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to say that I think we're getting trolled here on this broadcast because this person just keeps posting. Thank God for your studio. I think that might be your wife. She makes a mean granola, though. I appreciate the granola she makes.
When we built the studio, how long was it? She's texting me. Said, "God,
is she?
Yeah, honey." We built it 10 years ago, 8 years ago, or something like that. And before I was in here, I would practice. Our house is about 40 feet over there, and we have our backyard, and then in the back of the studio, which used to be her. One of her mini gardens, actually. We built this room, and so instead of playing and practicing and recording and all that in the house, we have a small house, but any house of any size, you're going to hear this thing, right?
Yeah.
So now all my playing is done out here. You can't hear it in the house, and so after 37 years of marriage, she affectionately refers to this room as our marriage saver.
Oh Lord. That's
so
funny.
You go. Yeah.
All right. Well, Leanne, thanks for joining in the conversation. I'm always happy to have her around. We do have a question here for Gordon. How important is the Bari I think I would ask this question for the Big Fat Band. How important is the Bari sax in the Big Fat Band?
Well,
it's not.
It's yeah, totally. I mean, it has its role. Every instrument has its role, and so we happen to have a baritone sax player in the band named Jay Mason, and he's one of the most impeccable musicians. Even though his place in the bottom of the band is not always noticed as much as the guys that are playing the melody parts and the solos, but he is so solid with his intonation, with his time. Eric will tell you, I mean, and he actually can play all the saxophones, all the woodwinds. He plays oboe just beautifully. He's one of those completely well-rounded musicians, and maybe a little underappreciated just because of sonically where he is. And I try to write a lot of interesting parts for the baritone sax and the bass trombone they're not just playing roots at the bottom of the chords. They're playing melodies. They're playing other interesting parts that intersect with what's going on. And so, yeah, certainly an important chair. But then again, they all are. Every one of them is a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. Well, and you both play multiple instruments. Gordon, I know you play keyboards, of course, and saxophone. What else? What else do you play?
Well, I made a decision going back about, I think it's maybe 15 years ago, and I at that time I was writing music, but I was also still playing, the saxophones and the clarinet and the flute, and I was average on the flute and clarinet, but I could play in tune, and I could kind of tuck in under Sal, or Dan Higgins, and not sound bad,
Yeah.
But I did a session, and they told me this is tenor saxophone, and then the night before, the contractor called and said, "Hey, bring your flute." Said, all right. So I got my flute out, played it, got a sounded pretty good. So I go to the session, and it's not a flute part. It's an alto flute part.
Oh.
And I didn't get it. So I'm like, oh. And so a friend of ours, Greg Huckins, was down at the end of the section. He goes, "Here, go to," and he throws me his alto flute. And I'm like, so I open it up, and then the conductor goes, "Okay, here we go. We're going to do, M5. And I get it up, and there's this big alto flute.
It's huge.
And it's a low register, and it's completely sustained and windy. And I'm putting this flute together, and I didn't have a chance to even blow through it and try to get a sound. The cue was going. I'm there. And we get to my solo, and I'm playing it, and I'm sounding like a high school player, or not even that good. I mean, I'm hanging in there, and I'm getting better as I get a little bit warmed up. But we're recording. And I'm with the orchestra in this like a 40-piece orchestra. So we do it, and then we do another take of it, and I'm a little better, but I'm still about a C+.
Mm-hmm.
So we take a break, and I went into the control room, and I look in there, and the musicians aren't generally on a session like this supposed to go into the control room, but I went in, and I went to the composer, and I said, "You need to do that again, and you need to overdub that alto flute part." He looks at me, he goes, "It's fine."
You're kidding.
I said, it's not fine. He goes, "It's fine." He taps his watch.
Oh, yeah.
And so I left that, and I said, "You know what? I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this again. Not to me, not to anybody that just because the contractor didn't tell me it's an alto flute, because a lot of times these session guys get to the session, and they bring all their horns. They don't know what it's going to be. There could be a change. Who knows what happens?" So at that time, I put the flute and the clarinet away into the closet. Haven't touched them. So right now I play soprano sax and tenor sax and keyboards. But between all the writing commitments, and all I had to learn kind of how to program all the synths and the samples and the conducting things I do. It's enough.
Yeah.
My days are full.
I get that.
And Gordon, you may not know that Patricia, is an accomplished flute player herself. That's her instrument. She studied.
Okay, so you can relate to
Baker, so,
I can. And my dad originally taught me clarinet, and because my sister played the clarinet, and I was not going to have that. I want if she was going to play the clarinet, I was going to play the clarinet, and my dad played clarinet and saxophone, so he taught me how to play the clarinet. But I really wanted to learn to play the flute, and because like I said, my dad was a professional musician up until just a few years ago. Wanted me to be able to double, so that I could play clarinet and saxophone and flute. But the embouchure was so different that it was tough for me, and I just gravitated more toward the flute. And I know I've seen you, Eric, pick up a flute in gigs before. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, I mean, same sort of sense as Gordon in terms of where Gordon's priorities, ended up heading more towards writing and composing field. For me, I sort of gravitated towards being a solo saxophone player, and not for any real reason other than it just sort of happened that way. I think I was trying to, like everybody else, aiming my career in a path towards studios and do studio work and be a doubler. And I think early on, which is why I didn't pursue it like a lot of the great doublers did. I had some opportunities as a recording musician, having my own records, getting my own record deal, starting to play with Chick Corea, and then different bands that came of that. And so it's kind of like when a great opportunity is right in front of you, and all you have to do is grab it, and you say, well, maybe I should practice my clarinet 4 hours a day because I might get some sessions that might lead to some things. But then again, here's a record deal where it's got nothing to do with doubling. It's on the instruments, on the saxophones, primarily alto and soprano, and it was really more where my heart did and does live anyway. I love being a soloist. One of the great things about this room here is that I get to record myself playing solos on various records, and that's kind of what I do now. I mean, people send me their records and say, hey, can you play a saxophone solo here, or can you play this tune there, or can you play on this record, or whatever. And so I love it, and so I love music, and I love, it's a challenge to play the other instruments for sure, but for myself, I just really, I just feel like getting to play, be a soloist as my main focus in music and as my career is really kind of what I.
Yeah.
I think with Eric, though, in hindsight, it's easy to see the choice that he made, because as a soloist and a personality on his instrument, he's deep into it at a level that there are a lot of great musicians, doing session work in town who can improvise really well. But there's a difference between a guy who has kind of gotten to a certain level of integration with improvisation, and another guy who's all the way down to it. Eric is that, you could hear that with the way when he plays, people listen, they lean in. It's more than just about, I play the right notes with the right chords in the right style. There's like I said earlier with Eric, there's a commitment, and I think that looking back at it now, that was exactly the right call for him, as opposed to taking years and years of study to get at a certain level on the flute and clarinet that might or might not be what you're supposed to be doing. And that is what's every person on the planet needs to decide. What am I supposed to do?
Focus on it. And go deep on it. That's what's somebody asked before, what's the difference between a good and a great lead player? And I think it is the commitment to playing at your highest possible level, and for most people that means focusing on an instrument.
And let me return the compliment. I mean, with Gordon's writing, the Big Fat Band is not the only thing that Gordon writes for, obviously. Check out The Incredibles too. Check out all kinds of different, films as well. But one, talk about, I don't know that you'd be hard pressed to find a decent high school jazz band program, certainly university program, that doesn't have some, at least many, Gordon Goodwin charts. There are, number one, there are just so many great ones to choose from, but there is an intangible there, actually, in the writing, that there's a lot of great composers out there. But not to just return the compliment again, but what is it that when you hear a particular chart, it like you go, oh, that's really cool. We do probably won't be able to do it this year, but we're going to possibly do some version of the Big Fat Camp that we've built up over the last several years. And myself and Brian Scanlon lead the two big bands generally each year. And there are a lot of Gordon Goodwin charts that are arranged, kind of watered down so that players, students of a lower level can play them, and but they're still great. And whenever in these bands, even though the charts may be over their heads, they say, "Oh no, we don't want to play the watered down ones. We want to play the real Hunting Rabbits, or the real, Jazz Police or whatever." And they go for it, and they might stumble like crazy, but they love it. There's a thing about it that it's great music, but there's a lot of great music out there, and so that really is an interesting question as to what is that intangible? What's that magic that draws people to something over something else? And,
I don't know. It's lightning in a bottle if you've got it, and that's something that so many composers strive for and don't get. But it is a true statement, Gordon, that you have that gift, and all I can say is we need more of your music. I would certainly enjoy that.
Well, would you be willing to pay for it?
Okay, so moving right along.
Music itself, you know.
Wow.
All right.
All the time.
These are hard times. These are challenging times. So I don't know, Eric, if you can see the comments here or not, but I just wanted to point out that you've got several of your students greeting each other, and the only way they know each other is from being online at ArtistWorks. And so I want to make sure that I say hello to them as well, because we really appreciate the fact that you learn with us and that you stay with us and that you're from many corners of the world. There's Phil Judd. He's joined us on a couple of these, and Andres Felipe. I don't know if you know these folks or not.
Of course. Yeah. Phil from
Okay.
Australia, come on.
You would probably know these folks better than I would. And then Calvin.
Calvin Hunter from Australia. Hey, Calvin.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
Yeah. Isn't that nice?
And Alec, Alec was in your band, Eric, at the Fat Cat.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. And so I just wanted to let you know that they're, all saying, hello to each other. But Andres, send me an email. My email is pbutler@artistworks.com. Please send me an email. And so we just have a lot of people that are enjoying their time here. And I really want to say thank you to everybody that joined us today. And I'm hoping that maybe we could do something fun here musically at the end, similar to what you did before, but, playing off of each other. But I have to say, I don't think that was challenging enough. So, oh my God. Good Lord.
Wow.
Move to your left. Move to your left. So there we go. All right. I'm taking a picture of that. Hold on. Don't move. I got to get a picture of that because we're going to put this up on a blog or something.
I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared at all for this.
This is the most humble person you're ever going to see is Gordon Goodwin right here. He's not.
Wow.
All right. Sit down. Will you please? Good.
Wow.
Cats.
Well,
Getting cats to march. That's what I'm doing here.
Wow.
Oh Lord! But anyway, so let's
like funnels. What's going on with those things? You have like little old.
And why are they at your
record player
fingertips?
thing.
That's what I want to know. Why are they sitting right there?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
Because I
they're
have-
usually in bed with you. Don't you have them like next to your pillow? Like every
I gotta
night?
take them with me most everywhere I go.
yeah, just so they're not headed to the pawn shop or anything. I mean,
They're hefty too. You can take somebody out, pop them in the head with this in case I, get a cost.
it could happen. It could happen. Anyway, seriously, for the folks that are out there, if you're interested in getting some absolutely awesome free sample jazz saxophone lessons, I've got the scroll happening here on the screen. You can just go to artistworks.com/free lessons. And also keep an eye on our channel here at Facebook. And also on, what's that other one? Oh, YouTube. We're going to be doing these live events, probably 2 or 3 back to those. And we welcome your questions. And certainly if you're interested in joining us at ArtistWorks, we'd be happy to have you there as well. So now that we've seen all your hood ornaments, maybe you guys could play something for us as we say goodbye. Is that possible?
Yeah. What do you want to play, Gordon?
Or you're going to have to do your little... All right, he's going to think of something here.
Think of something.
Think of something, quick. Nice touch. That was perfect. You guys are so much fun. Thank you for joining me, and thanks everybody from Brazil and Singapore and Pennsylvania and Maryland and everywhere else. You guys are great in asking all of these good questions, and I'm so happy to spend an hour of my day with two great musicians. Thank you both for your time and for your talent and for sharing it with the world. I really appreciate it as a musician, and I hope very much to see both of you sometime soon, hopefully in Napa, and I hope that you stay well and safe at home.
Thanks, Patricia. It was great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Yeah. Stay safe,
All right.
all.
Thanks, Eric and Leanne. Time for dinner. All right. See you guys. Take care.